Tricons. Tradition, traditional values, conservatives, American conservatism. You know, there's a lot of similarities and like alternative like takes with between this like the red orthodoxy energy and idea and orange idea of man qua man. And as time has developed, or as history has passed through, and societies like progress, there's like a rise and fall of traditions and how we understand ourselves. And what we do is we pass along sacred truths, and we have cultural institutions, and societies grow with, they have their political governance structures like rise and fall, and like trends grow, and a lot gets passed on. And you know, the people end up like going through processes of like big waves of like population growth, and then big waves of decimation, like the plagues and warfare, and you know, climate change disasters. And I actually, yeah, I think that I propose that we come up with another word, because climate change has been so abused. It's like weather events, you know. It's like ice ages and asteroids and stuff like that. But there's, you know, there's something to sacred wisdom. Now, there's a lot of sacred wisdom to draw from, so it's not clear what sacred wisdom you mean when you say that you are a dogmatic person or have a dogmatic like way of life. And it's also, there's also many societies today, and so if you are a proponent of civil society, then it's also not clear what kind of civil society you mean. Like there are, like in Western Europe, in like the Scandinavian countries, we can't tell whether or not we should be calling them socialists or capitalists. Like we don't know if they're economically one way or another. We don't know if they're socially one way or another. What we do know though is that their regular, the way they operate, their business and lifestyle is very open and free, and it's not constrained by their government, but they have a lot of regulations as far as like what they're allowed to do and how they integrate with people as a society. And they try all sorts of like weird things by, you know, teaching their like the kids, you know, they're trying to desexualize them or some nonsense like that. And so really, in real terms, how much can you actually do in that direction? You really can't really do that much. And what one of the things that I think got studied is that exact opposite effects ended up happening, where like engineers and nurses, the distribution of the sexes ended up switching out. The more that they made a homogenized like asexual society, the more men became masculine and like women became feminine in their lives and their careers. And so what we find is that we want traditional conservative values even when we don't know it, because for the reasons that they are tradition, for the reasons they have been conserved. And so a lot of times we fight against the conservatives, and like, you know, it's basically what did we do except make international the fight of the teenager against their father, the one that is supporting the family. It's actually a single aggrieved hysterical woman screaming at her father saying, "You're the patriarchy." I mean, we're not getting too creative about our LARPing in real terms. We have like huge institutions dedicated to telling a very simple story of adolescence and applying it globally. It's like the very beginning of the problem. And for our academic institutions to have ground to a halt at such a immature level of understanding makes it an absolute laughing stock in the tomes of history. Like what they're doing right now is it's so poor. To think that post-adolescent people are going to get indoctrinated in how to indoctrinate others to be immature. It's not just sad, it's revolting. So in this climate, there's an obvious need and a desire by people that are like, dude, I don't understand it. I'm not, there's like a general sentiment that a lot of people, there are people who are able to make it despite these conditions. They bury their resentments. They dig in and get it done. And so there's like a hole that is created over in this side, as utopia doesn't seem to pay off the way it would, the way it was promised, the way it was hoped, because they were running away from things in particular, and for good reason in a lot of respects, but not so good reasons in a lot of others. And so the idea that there's a solution, or that there could be a solution, and that we may know what the solution is, because we may have already known what the solution is basically the beginnings of another renaissance of today. And it's very similar to the process of Martin Luther and the Reformation that was occurring in Western Europe 500 years ago. And so the task at hand is for the tradcons and the conservatives to better refine what they are conserving with respect to the actual complaints of the people that are against it, which means that we should not be being conservative for like corporate structure and employment-based healthcare and huge city-wide school systems that are unionized and static. Those things shouldn't be conserved. We shouldn't, just because there are traditions now. It's like, trust me, they're not long-standing traditions. The way we got there is very ragtag sort of, just one thing led to another, and here we are. And so we need to consider what our traditions are. We need to consider what we are conserving. We should lean towards sacred wisdom. We should utilize reason and transcendence. And we should rely on people that embody those energies to corral those who are working to find the right path, which is embodied by the red pill communities of the manosphere, of the independent intelligentsia, of the Bible Belt, of the new media, of the radio, of the 90s, of the Tea Party movement. It's like we have an existential problem with like youth that is filled with despondency and terror with the life that they have followed the lead of those that have gone before them, and they find out that it's like a stampede towards a cliff, and they're just running themselves over the edge. We need to be able to stop that process. Somewhere that we need to run to, but we need to stop running towards the cliff. And that's that hole in the soul that needs to be filled. It's like there's got to be an answer for how. I mean, the lowest common denominator of what there's got to be is that the process of self-discovery of the answer that we seek is part of the answer. And so what we need to be able to do is it's like individuate to grow and to discover for ourselves what the answer ought to be for us and our people, in all the many respects, and also for others to not sleep on or cover up their own lifestyle choices, which is like a very big thing, where we have successful families and prosperous communities with good schooling and nice neighborhoods. They don't let other people have the same things. They act as though that their values are, they act in a different way. They live in one way, but they preach in another. And so that ends up being very destructive to a whole swath of people that suffer unnecessarily. And it's a very base sin that is so common, and I kind of wish it was like less common. And like up till this day, I used to be able to very easily identify the people who commit this particular sin. They would have signs, Hillary Clinton signs, that says hate, and they put it in their front door. That way everybody knows that they hate other people. Now it says something different. It's like hate has no home here, but we all know what that means.